these signature programs lists. We're moving out of signature programs, but we are charged with evaluating impact and communicating positive outcomes. And we're kind of group those together. But we were the first regional IPM center to hire an impact evaluation specialist. And now two of the other three have followed suit by actually hiring people in a similar kind of job, and the fourth one is doing similar things in another way. So Doris Sande actually is the pioneer impact evaluation specialist for Southern Region IPM programs, and for regional IPM centers. And she's going to just give a quick overview of the kind of things that she does. So Doris, you are on.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My voice is a bit croaky, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit for coughing too much, and hopefully I won't cough when I'm speaking. But I'll just evaluate a little bit, give you a brief outline of what I do. And the main thing I do for the center is to document impacts of IPM implementation in the southern region. And that is mainly from the projects that the center has funded. And then out of those, to communicate successes. So we communicate the successes in the form of success stories. And Jim introduced some of the impacts that we focus on. There are three main ones: the economic impacts, human health impacts, and the environmental impact. And so far last year and coming into this year, the biggest problem I had with getting those impacts is that there was not, we didn't have baseline data, because most of the PIs, they didn't have guidance on what kind of information they should record for the center. And when they turned in their reports at the end of the year or at the end of whatever their project time, then we found that we are not able to go back and document those impacts. So to correct that, one of the things I'm doing this year with the 16 projects that we have funded is to track baseline data with them from the beginning of their project, so that I move with them along. By the end of their project time, whatever change they will get, we compare to what change they'll have accomplished through their project. So this is going to be the first year that we really be able to see that we have baseline data, and that's a very good thing that I'm looking forward to. Excuse me. Another thing in terms of documenting impact, I'm working with those PIs on their evaluation plans, because some of them are not, they don't have a very good background on evaluation. So you find that when we ask them to give impacts, instead they give us outputs or just a story of what they did, especially for some where the projects are very technical. But we really just want to see what are the impacts. Is it economic? Is it human health? Is it environmental? So we want to make sure that I direct them in the right direction on how to give us those impact from their projects. And in communicating successes, we communicate the success stories to our stakeholders. And I have some of the stories I've written since last year, and I have them up on our website. And this link, if you will go to that link at a later time, you'll be able to see some of those stories and just see what they are. So the only downside of those stories is that I don't have quantitative values of the impact in there because of that issue of the baseline data. But hopefully in the near future we are going to be having those. A second thing that I do is, and this comes from out of the strength of the center, in that of establishing networks. So I do collaboration in order to make sure that we are strengthening these networks that we have. And this collaboration is mainly with the other centers. So how we are accomplishing that is that right now, since the other two centers have evaluation specialists too, we are collaborating on going to carry out a study. And what you see as SNA there is social network analysis. So we are looking forward to do that study to be able to determine what are the networks that each center have. And some of these networks, when we are focusing about them, we are talking about, like now, if we have the advisory council. We have the advisory council. Some of you were referred to us by somebody we already know, or you might be knowing somebody else that you might refer to us. So if we start at the center, how many links can we go out? How many people do we know? The person that we know first, how many people is that person linked to? And how can they be able all together as a network help us to be able to bring about IPM implementation in the region? So we want to see the strength of our networks, and if they are very weak, how can we improve them through that study? And so what we are having is that we are actually going to be having a call with the other evaluation specialists on this August 15, just to pull ideas. So we put together a survey instrument and then carry out that survey, and you should be able to, well, at the end of the year, you should be able to know what we come up with. Another area I'm collaborating with is with a team from the Western Region IPM Center, and this put together as a working group. It's actually, they're calling it an impact team, and the point what it's doing is that we are coming up with a guide for people who don't know how to carry out evaluation, on how they can be able to do their own evaluation, like simple evaluation that does not require a specialist. And so in that guide, we are putting down the steps of what a person who doesn't know evaluation, how they can be able to carry out their own evaluation, and if they get to a point where they need help. So we have those specifics, and we are writing them down. We have different sections depending on the specialization. Myself, I'm an agricultural economist, so I'm dealing with the economic analysis section. And when we have the whole guide completely finished out, Jim, my boss, he doesn't know the whole content of it, because we, at this point, we are still kind of putting it together, so we've not shown them the details of it yet, but they should be able to see what is in there, and then once it's completed, everybody should be able to access it. The next slide, please. And another area I'm involved in is, and this is really, when I came on board, I was not very active in this area in grant writing, but as of this year, I'm going to start participating in that quite a lot. And in that, one of the areas is in writing grants for the center. When Jim is writing grants, I should be able to chip in, and then also collaborate with the other centers. And that's when I talk about other centers, it's mostly with the evaluation specialists. And this year, we actually brought a proposal to the EIPMCS, the NIFA grant, and we are still waiting. I know some people have already received their report of whether they received the grant or not. We are still waiting on ours, so I'm kind of putting it at the back of my mind so I don't stress about it. And I should be in future to collaborate in other areas as applies to my field. And another main area that I'm working on is research. And this was also not a very strong area when I came on board, but with Jim we discussed and decided that this is something that will help to my professional development. So right now I'm actually working on some 2 studies, and the first one, I did update the crop survey for peanuts in terms of pesticide use. So I want to use that crop survey to determine the differences in pesticide use from previous years up to the current, and see what changes have happened so far. So the link you have there will just take you to the crop survey, to the peanut crop survey. It's not the paper yet, but I'm using that survey to write the paper. And I'm also working on, we did a needs assessment at the beginning of the year as a center to determine what are the priority areas that we want to address. And those priority areas are actually the ones that contributed to the 16 projects. We were looking at the projects that are addressing the main, the priority areas in the region. So out of that needs assessment, I'm putting together a paper that will address that. Next slide, please. So I've spoken about crop surveys. So then the one I'm working on now is Christmas trees. And there are several others I'm supposed to work with, but there's a problem in there, in that the specialists who are working on those crops there, I think they've not done the surveys for a while, and it's been very difficult to get them to be willing to do it. And so going on forward, we'll see what help I can get from them or from elsewhere. And in order to be able to update those crop surveys like sweet potatoes and green vegetables. And then I also work on providing evaluation support to the programs that are supported by the center. And most of those are the working groups. So one of those that I've worked with this year has been the Small Farms Working Group that you heard from Henry. When they submitted their proposal, there was a portion that I had to help them with to do with evaluation. But going forward, I'm supposed to help them with any evaluation component that they will need. And then I also deal with updating the projects database, because we have all the projects that the center funds. They are in our database, and so I make sure that to update and make sure that all the PIs have submitted their reports. So I go in there, and the reports that have not been submitted, I have to follow up with the PIs and make sure that I get them. There are some that I've followed up several times, but they still not submitted them. But of course, we have to keep insisting until they give us the report. And finally, is to provide evaluation training. So this one I've not started doing it, but the plan is to start doing it this year, and it's to target some of the meetings and go there and be able to give a presentation or just get a slot in order to teach them a little bit on evaluation. That is so far